we're just going to have to record it and hope for the best.
Why are you repeating everything I'm saying?
Why are you repeating everything I'm saying? Hello, and welcome to the Word Lover Podcast.
Yes, hello. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's good to be here with you, Josh.
What's shaking?
Oh, not much. Thank you for joining the Word Lover podcast.
Word leather.
Word Lover. We started the book of Proverbs the last time we were together, and we're going to continue on in that. We did not even make it out of chapter 1 last time. I think we're going to try to finish that up today, though.
We did not make it out of chapter 1. What's that all about?
I think you just got a little talkative there.
Are you dragging your feet, James?
Well, it's some good stuff. It's Proverbs. Don't you like Proverbs?
I do.
Yeah. Supposedly it was written by Solomon or collected by Solomon. And my question is, though, where are all the rest of them?
What are you talking about?
Where are all the rest of the Proverbs?
I'm confused.
Well, he spoke 3,000 Proverbs and had 1,005 songs.
Some of them were duplicates, so they kind of mashed them together just
Is
to
that
make
what
sure.
they condensed them down?
Condensed them all, 5 or 6 into one.
Well, that makes a lot. I guess that makes some sense. But
We're
we're going to continue on with Proverbs today, and we're going to be picking it up in verse 20. Are you
20.
there?
I am in verse
Yep.
20. Wisdom's a rebuke.
Wisdom calls aloud in the street. She raises her voice in the public squares.
Why is she a she?
Do what?
Why is wisdom a she?
Is that what we're going to start off with today?
I reckon we might as well. I mean,
It is the first thing.
yes, wisdom is a she.
Yep, wisdom is personified as female in the book of Proverbs, and there's probably a lot of different opinions about that. But some people think it's because it's the lost remnants of a Hebrew goddess, Sophia. But,
Oh, really?
yes, I don't really agree with all that kind of stuff though. But I believe it was recorded down as a she because in the Hebrew language, you have masculine and feminine articles. In like in our English, we don't. We have a sort of a blah language sometimes.
No, I know some women that write articles. What are you talking about?
What are you
You said article.
women that write articles?
Yeah.
No, but wisdom is a feminine word in the Hebrew, and
Does that not strike you as odd?
well, no, it doesn't strike me as odd.
It's male-dominated culture, basically, isn't it? So to use
Yeah.
wisdom in the female aspect, how does that play into it?
But if you think about it, though, a godly wife is somebody to be treasured and a valuable thing that given by God, a gift given by God, a crown on your head, a crown of jewels, not thorns. But no, she's supposed to be somebody that is desirable and pleasurable. So personifying as a woman would picture wisdom as something worth seeking out, not just you can. What would you have to say about it? Though? Why do you think it's a woman?
I really wouldn't know. I mean, I don't know enough about the culture to really give an opinion about it. I figured you have researched it because you usually do.
Well, I also think it's a woman, just like the word for salvation in Hebrew is feminine. It's Yeshua with the hey at the end. And I think the reason why wisdom is personified as that is because it being a feminine word, it becomes the possession of the one who has the wisdom. And this being God, it's God's wisdom. God is always pictured as masculine. So the feminine wisdom would be belonging to God.
Well, I've heard of there's poetry and songs and music that refer to God as a she.
What in?
Not necessarily Christian or whatever.
Oh, I was
but
gonna say it's not scriptural.
Okay, well, that clears that up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not scriptural. He's always referred to as in the masculine. Now, there are certain characteristics of God that are talked about in a feminine quality, just as wisdom and
i.e.
salvation
wisdom,
and stuff
salvation.
like that. And then he says that just as a hen, with Jesus speaking, just as a hen gathered her chicks under her wing, so I wish I could gather Jerusalem underneath sort of a God's wing. People want to point to that, saying, well, that's feminine speaking about God, but it's not speaking of God himself. It's speaking of an attribute or a characteristic of God. And they could speak that way in the feminine when it comes to that.
On top of the wall, she cries out. At the city gate, she makes her speech. What is that? What does that mean?
She raises her voice in the public square in the head of the noisy street. You know, how many times does God try to talk to us, and we're just so busy in life, you know, with all the distractions and whatnot, the pressures and.
Well, I try to make sure that I'm connecting with God daily. I mean, I can't speak for you, but no. I don't really have that problem. So that's what it is. It's just broadcasting where you can see him. Is that like the idea, or wisdom where you can see it?
That's where wisdom is trying to be known. That she's in the public square. She's at the beginning of the street. She's in the city gate. But I mean, I guess it could speak to sort of like both sides at the same time. You know, it's in the busyness of our life. You know, God's word is right there, wanting us to not be distracted from it. And no matter what is going on in our life, God is wanting us to pay attention to wisdom so that we'll know how to act, what to say, you know, where to go. Just as Jeremiah said that my spirit will be leading you to tell you to turn left, to turn right.
Well, how long will you, who are simple, love your simple ways?
Sometimes I think forever.
What is a simple way? What is that supposed to mean? Wisdom should be somewhat simple, right?
Well,
I mean, it's not out of reach. It's not.
I would say it's more of a mystery. It's something to be sought. Wisdom is the understanding and the application of something. A simple way would just is like something that you don't give any thought to.
Oh.
So like people who just say whatever comes to their minds, or like, you know, it's like, well, I just do whatever I want to because I don't really want to consider the outcome. It would be, to me, more of a simple way.
How long will mockers delight in mockery, and fools hate knowledge?
Well, if back in the earlier in the chapter said a fool despises wisdom and discipline, I guess a fool will always hate knowledge, because it knowledge and wisdom call you away from simple ways. It calls you away from you could say the sinful things that we want to hold on to. So as long as you remain foolish, you're going to hate knowledge. But if you embrace knowledge, you become wise.
Well, knowledge is not wisdom. Like, we've established that already.
No, it's not. But it's what leads to wisdom.
But there's a lot of fools that go to get knowledge at on a college level or
like at universities.
Yeah. Well, how do you approach that?
Well, I think it says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
So higher academic, like if you're pursuing that doesn't mean you're pursuing knowledge.
I think it's the pursuing of the beginning of all knowledge and understanding. In other words, God. You don't want nothing to do with God or have God in your life, and that's what makes you foolish. Because it's like earlier in this chapter when it talks about setting your nets before the birds, and how that's kind of a foolish thing to do because they see it and they're not going to really want to go up there to it. But they're not contemplating their ways, not contemplating what they're doing, and actually evaluating where their actions are going to be leading them, and they're going to end up snaring themselves. So as a fool who hates knowledge, you're not actually contemplating where knowledge actually has its roots in, which is God, and what the purpose of knowledge is. It's to understand God's creation and draw you closer to Him. So if you despise that, it doesn't matter how much information you can retain or you gather in your lifetime. What matters is that you understand what the purpose and the you could say the ultimate purpose for knowledge is.
Well, so let's say that I am wisdom, and I see somebody that's being foolish, and I go up to them and say, "Repent at my rebuke." Do you think that will have any effect?
I guess it depends on the person. I mean, some people might say, "Well, let me consider what I'm doing." Some people might just try to hit you in the face. Then I think everybody.
Is that wisdom?
Wisdom?
Whether knowing you should talk to them or punch them in the face?
Is it wisdom on their part?
Oh, yeah.
No, but I think everybody, no matter despite how harsh a rebuke can come across at times, I think everybody at some point in the future after that point, they're going to meditate upon that. They're going to go back and think about it. Even if it's something like, I'm going to get back at them on what did they say, or let me really think about what they said and see if it really fits.
That would be wisdom on their part, because they would have to exercise wisdom in order, or you could just initially just shrug it off and not think about it at all.
Yeah, you could.
Because there's some correction.
Think about it though.
Some correction you get isn't necessarily going to do you any good anyway, depending on where the source is. But
like being grounded to your bedroom.
Well, that would be
when you want to be away from everybody to begin with.
That's a helpful tool, though. Then I will pour out my thoughts to you, and I will make known to you my teachings. But since you refuse to listen when I call, and no one pays attention when I stretch out my hand, since you disregard all my advice, and do not accept my rebuke, I in turn will laugh when disaster strikes you. Bah, bah, bah.
Yeah, so like a wisdom saying, I told you so.
I will mock you when calamity overtakes you. So does that not fall into how long will mockers delight in mockery?
Well, I don't think the wisdom is delighting in mockery.
It says that's exactly what it says.
What? In turn, I will laugh at your disaster.
Yeah.
I will mock when calamity overtakes you.
Laughter and delight are pretty close.
Is that what yours says, delight?
No, but it says laugh.
Oh. Yeah, but it's not it's making a mockery. It's using that as the same thing as of pointing out the foolishness or the folly of what they were doing, and that's what you told them that's what's going to happen.
Well, it's wisdom saying this.
Yes.
Not you.
I know.
Nice try. When disaster sweeps over you like a whirlwind, when distress and trouble overwhelm you. That's the last part of it.
Of that. And then 28 picks up. Then they will call to me, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but will not find me. Since they hated knowledge and did not choose to hear the Lord, since they would not accept my advice and spurned my rebuke, they will eat the fruit of their ways and be filled with the fruit of their schemes. Man, that sounds almost kind of harsh, but it's like you reap what you sow. What do you say about all that?
What about grace? Where's grace at?
Where's grace? It was being offered to him.
Well, I know. So is there a cutoff? Like once you buy the ticket, you ride the ride. That's it.
Well, for their actions, and they sowed their actions, and they rep the repercussions of that. They're not speaking of it like an eternal thing here, unless you take this and spiritualize it and talk about our overall lives, which I think you can. The grace is being offered to everybody through the call to accept wisdom now, and there always is going to be a cutoff of grace. That's called the judgment, when he separates the sheep and the goats. I mean, is he going to be ungracious by sending them to hell, the ones that reject him?
No.
No, he's been as gracious as he can by giving them as much time as he could.
For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear and harm. So, basically, all you got to do is seek wisdom, and then you'll be in safety forever.
That's right.
Problem solved.
Yeah, problem solved. But no, wisdom is personifying something else. It's personifying the plan and concept of God through Jesus Christ, which is why in Colossians it says that Jesus is the wisdom and knowledge or understanding of God. So can Jesus be feminine? If he's personified as wisdom as well?
Yeah. No. I was just testing to see if you knew the answer. Be at ease without fear of harm. So, do you think that's it? That's the black and white.
I think it can be
rules,
that simple.
But there's got to be alterations a little bit. Like it can't be a catch-all. If you do this, you're good.
Well, if you could
I think
consistently do that.
Good guidelines, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's saying that if you did this consistently, this is going to happen. The problem is, especially I can speak for myself, I don't do that consistently. I have to constantly go back and repent of stuff, and so I constantly brought back to the point of safety and ease and without fear of harm. But Philippians chapter 4 says, "Cast all your anxiety upon Him. Do not be anxious about nothing, but with prayer and petition and thanksgiving, make your requests be made known to God." Right?
That's the one. I taught you that, didn't I?
That's a good verse to be taught.
Well, so we're here on chapter 2 of Proverbs. Do you want to keep going, or because we're going to run out of time?
Are we running out of time?
We've got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah. Once we get set up in a bigger, newer place,
it would be nice to do a clean cut chapter with each episode.
It would, and we're going to do that from now on. That way we can keep it flowing smooth. But I think we've covered some good, decent ground here, considering how he's going in from introducing the parables, and then right off the bat he's talking about wisdom and this call that we need to be answering to pursue this, and he's going to get into it further above all else. I can't wait to get into them verses about seeking it beyond treasure.
Well, that's basically it, just gaining wisdom. So do you think that you could just read Proverbs every day and be all right?
And be all right, like living?
Yes.
I think anybody who reads Proverbs every day will probably end up living a pretty decent life. Just because it's the characteristics that God wants to see in our lives. And if you put them into practice, I would say you'd have a pretty decent life ahead of you. But it's not saying that no harm or no tragedy won't befall you, but you'll have a foundation, an anchor point to always go back to.
Well, Confucius has Proverbs too. Would you say that you can follow those?
Actually, a lot of Confucius Proverbs are pretty decent. And yes, you can follow them, but when did they come about?
Are you a heretic?
I'm not a heretic. I don't have hairy ticks.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it's like, when did they come about? Solomon is way before Confucius.
Well,
Not say way, a few hundred years.
Well, I mean.
And his wisdom was world renowned. Everybody came to hear from him and speak with Solomon. And I think as the Jewish Empire had the prominence of the time then, because at the height of their empire, they were powerful, they were smart, they were taking in revenues from all over, even if they didn't actually own the territory. And I think that Solomon's wisdom would have been propagated all throughout the territories and ultimately the world by that kind of stuff, by trade and conquest.
Well, yeah, all that's good and fine, but when are we going to talk about Solomon's controlling the demons and angels and his ring of power?
Well, when we get to that in this book.
Would he could be considered a sorcerer?
Well, if according to that's in the wisdom of Solomon.
The wisdom of Solomon.
Well,
this is Solomon's wisdom, is it not?
Well, it's a book that's not really considered biblical.
We should do that too, though, right?
I think we got to tie all the, I guess you could say, the proverbial books.
Proverbial.
Everything that would tie into it would be good to tie into it as we go along, because I mean it'd be a real rounded discussion and not just looking at one source.
I've read about like synopsis of that book, but I've not. No, about like the whole that whole book.
Where the Lord of the Rings come from?
It could be, but they don't really control any demons, so I don't know. Have
you seen a lot of the things in that movie?
I don't think
kind of devilish.
There's no angels in it though either. So, well, unless you count the elves.
Yeah, they could be angelic little beings. Interesting.
Well,
We'll have to try to incorporate that as well. J.R.R. Tolkien.
Wait, Lord of the Rings or Wisdom of Solomon? You got me all confused.
I meant the Wisdom of Solomon.
And next week we'll be going over chapter 2 and how it relates to Star Wars.
Hey, if we can work it in there, maybe we can see how it can fit, or at least fit it in the discussion somehow.
Well, we're sorry it's so short this week, folks, but we'll have a nice box to paint in next week with a whole chapter.
Chapter 2.
Yeah. So
chapter 2 of Proverbs. So we'll pick it up there, read it, and join in the discussion if you want to. Just leave comments. Below. Yep. Just leave some comments there so we can talk about it. We'll bring them up on air. For right now, we'll leave you for now. You've been listening to the WordLover podcast. I'm James.
And this is Josh.
And we're out.
Ramblers in the wilderness, we can't find what we need. We get a little restless from search and get a little worn down in between.